Civilization is a game series that hasn't shown up in Video Game Month yet, but I did play Civilization 2, and I did play a little bit of Civilization 3. But it wasn't until my roommates showed me Civilization 4, and to be specific, Civilization 4 Beyond the Sword, because there were different expansions, that I really got hooked to it, because holy crap. Civilization 4 Beyond the Sword is incredibly addicting. I mean, there's actually a real-time clock next to the menu that's up on the screen the entire time to remind you that, yes, it is in fact 3 a.m. and you should go to sleep, but you can't and you won't because there's always another goal to get. There's always just a new building that's going to finish in 5 turns, a new technology that's going to show up in 10 turns, another war to fight. There's so much going on in this game. This is one of those games that there's not necessarily a real solid end point. There's no like final boss or last level or anything like that. It's basically something that starts off usually from the prehistoric days where you have like villagers and a guy with a spear, and you create a society full of cities and armies and all sorts of interconnecting things amongst all these other societies, and it just grows and grows and grows until you become a modern empire and you fight for space and you fight for certain resources and you get new technologies all the way up to modern times with tanks and planes and radio and internet and nuclear missiles and all sorts of things like that. I find that I rarely get to that end point because there's a certain point where I feel trapped in and I can't really do anything and I feel powerless against the powers that are around me because of mistakes I made 2,000 years ago in the game's timeline. Personally, I didn't like fighting in Civilization. Probably because I sucked at it. It seemed to me that if you were on the defensive end in Civilization 4 Beyond the Sword, you had the disadvantage. They're going to attack you, and if they didn't attack you in your city, they would destroy all the things you worked so hard to build up around your city, like roads and farms and mines and things like that. And while you have a defensive bonus, they would just throw so many things at you and take you over. And then when you try to take your city back, you didn't have nearly enough forces in order to take it back from the piddly 1 or 2 that they left behind. I guess I probably just wasn't very good at it. I wasn't very good at fighting wars, I wasn't very good at defending them, so I just built a shit ton of units of greater technologies and sat there with the guns while they had arrows and things like that. I was more of a culture and science guy, which sometimes helped me out. Usually I played with my roommates, and Bill would always be the great warrior, so if I ever got in trouble, he could help me out. But in an online game, if there were a little bit for Civ, I don't think I'd do all that well. In conclusion, Civilization 4. Possibly the smartest thing you'll ever be doing at 4 a.m. in the morning.